The unified theory, or unified approach, is a new way to pull together the major traditions of psychotherapy into a coherent whole. Historically, psychotherapy has been marked by different traditions or schools of thought. These traditions were largely established by master therapists or guru types who believed they found the key to psychopathology and its treatment based on their techniques and observations in the therapy room. For example, Freud, first with hypnosis and later with free association, thought he found the pathway to psychopathology lie in the golden road to the unconscious. Later, Carl Rogers, with his empathetic client-centered approach, felt that if he could create the right relational context, individuals would grow and meet their full adaptive potential. Still later, Beck recognized that the way in which people talked to themselves and engaged in a constant stream of thought played a huge role in things like depression and anxiety, and that was central to disentangling psychopathology and moving towards health. Now, over the past couple of decades, there have been some reflections how to take these very specific and different schools of thought and wonder whether or not they could possibly go together. Indeed, we've seen the emergence of eclecticism or integrative approaches, which basically refer to the attitude that, yes, there are strengths and weaknesses in each of these approaches, and maybe there is a way to put them so that they go together. Indeed, what we've seen actually is a proliferation of integrative approaches, so that lots of people have tried in lots of different ways to blend these perspectives and others into a new, bigger picture. But unfortunately, what's happened is that there's been a proliferation of integrative approaches without any consolidation of what those approaches are or understanding about what it is they ought to be anchored to. The unified approach offers a novel solution to this state of affairs. And what it does is it offers a new way to view the field of human psychology as a whole. That's the science of human psychology. It unifies the science of human psychology to give rise to a picture of the knowledge base that is psychological science. And it is from that unified picture of the knowledge base of psychological science that the principles and approach to psychotherapy grow out of. There are many aspects of the unified approach, and I cannot go into them all here. However, I will make a couple of key points about the direction it heads for therapy and some of the key principles that arise out of the unified approach. Central to the unified approach is the idea of adaptive living. Indeed, the idea of adaptive living, if you look for it, is at least implicit across all the major approaches. Living adaptively is when, given one's situation, capacities, and needs, one is maximizing their valued states of being. This point provides a frame for the direction of therapy, which can usually be done by thinking about what would enhance someone's adaptive living and in what ways are they engaging in their situation, in the relationship with others, themselves, in a maladaptive way. Related to adaptive living, the unified approach argues that much of personality can be described in terms of character adaptation or character adaptation systems, which are the specific ways in which people adjust to and respond to the situations in their lives. Indeed, the unified approach points out that there are 5 systems of character adaptation. These systems of adaptation are as follows. The first and most basic is the habit system. The habit system is your procedural memory system that you do even without consciously thinking about it. It's shaped by association and reward and punishment, and it happens automatically, and it can also be thought about your daily patterns of living in terms of sleeping, eating, bedtime, etc. The second system of adaptation is called the experiential system. The experiential system refers to the felt experience of being in one's body. It involves your perceptions, your inner drives, your motives, and your images. And it's organized by your emotions, your felt sense of being, and whether things are going good or bad, and the variety of emotional states one will feel. The third system is called the relationship system. The relationship system is an extension of the experiential system, but it's of the particular image a person has of themselves in relationship to other. And it relates to things like to the extent to which a person feels valued, their needs for power or love or independence from another person. And that relational system serves as an intuitive guide in social exchange. The fourth system is the defensive system, and it relates to these other systems and the fifth system, which is called the justification system. The justification system is your conscious set of beliefs that you share to yourself and to others. And it relates deeply to things like your worldview and your self-concept and why it is you believe you do what you do. Now, the relationship between your justification system and your experiential system, according to the unified approach, sometimes can be kind of complicated. And that's why we have defenses. If, for instance, your identity with regards to who you are and what it is you ought to be doing relates differently to how you experientially feel, you may feel what's called cognitive dissonance or conflict. And then you seek to rationalize or inhibit aspects. And that gets back to the fourth system, the defensive system. So, the 5 systems of character adaptation identified by the unified approach are the habit system, the experiential system, the relationship system, the defensive system, and the justification system. Now, every time I share these ideas with individuals, most individuals, lay people and psychologists alike, can relate to these systems. They can place them in their kind of pantheon of either folk psychology for a layperson or deep psychological knowledge for a scientist or practitioner of psychology. But what's really interesting about these systems of adaptation in the context of the future of psychotherapy is that we can line up these systems of adaptation with the major traditions in psychotherapy. For example, the habit system. This habit system corresponds very directly to both the ideas and the focus of the early behaviorists. The early behaviorists, of course, focused on what you actually did. They diminished needs to attend to things like your conscious thoughts or feelings, and they shaped the habits that people had based on things like associative conditioning and operant theory. The experiential system corresponds a lot to what the humanists who focused on emotion and later experiential therapies like Fritz Perls' work. So it's a direct correspondence to that system. The relationship system, that image of self and other, your core sense of attachment and being valued, and the defensive systems correspond to the angles that psychodynamic therapists, modern Freudian therapists, focus on in relationship to understanding people's needs and motives and why they do what they do or get stuck in cycles that they do. And finally, that justification system, the conscious beliefs that you have in your identity, this relates to cognitive therapy in particular, and also more narrative therapy approaches. Okay? So the key here is that these systems of adaptation correspond directly to what historically have been fractured systems of interpretation to explain psychopathology, but now can be put together in a whole. I like to liken it to medical doctors. If you go see a medical doctor, they'll have an understanding that your gastrointestinal system and your circulatory system both are crucial to health. They might specialize in one of those systems or another, but no one would be focused on just the gastrointestinal system as opposed to just the circulatory system. That's actually what we've done in psychotherapy. What the unified approach does is allows individuals to see that each of these subsystems work together to form a whole. Once we put these systems together, we can develop holistic conceptualizations of both adaptive and maladaptive psychological process. Furthermore, the systems of adaptation exist in what I call 3 broad contexts. They exist in the context of biology, which is the person's genetic history and their current physiology. They exist in the context of the person's learning and developmental sequence and history, and they exist in a social and relational context. These are the biological, psychological, and social levels of context. So we can take the systems of adaptation, place them in a biopsychosocial frame, and that gives rise to holistic conceptualization. I argue that this is what's been lacking, and what this does do for us for the future is that it ties the practice of psychotherapy to a broad and general model of human psychological science, thus bridging the practice-science divide in a new and productive way. Where are we now in relationship to this system? Where we are now is we're training individuals about how to develop holistic conceptualization, holistic assessments, give this back to the clients in a way that's called a therapeutic assessment, which gives rise to a conceptualization shared among the client and the therapist in regards to what is their current maladaptive and adaptive patterns and what would enhance their adaptive living in the future. This then sets the stage for a working therapeutic alliance with high relational quality, a good conceptualization, guided by a shared sense of the kinds of interventions that will be effective in moving the individual towards their goal. With this formulation, these are key principles that we know are consistent with very good outcomes. And with this formulation, we have found, with many cases, this to be a consistently productive framing and organization. Currently, we're in the process of developing a center that actually systematically tests this on a much broader scale. And my hope and excitation is that I believe that if this shows to be an efficient and effective way for individuals to address their psychological problems, it offers a world of good, both for individuals and for the field of psychology, because it provides an authentic bridge between the practice and the science moving forward.